this is Lavinia at Cross Keys Crafts. Today with a card idea that I had because I always see these lovely scenes that members of the Lavinia Stamps design team create, and you probably know if you follow Lavinia Stamps, they had a new release with some new witches, and I'm thinking, well, I've only used my old ones about once. This is the Coven of the Blue Moon. I'm sure these were released last year, about a year ago, for the Halaganza, and they've got a new release now. I think it's called the Coven of Curiosity. I haven't ordered any new stamps yet. I'll wait till I actually go to the open day to the Halaganza this year to Rithin, to the Dreamatorium, so I will buy my stamps there. But I thought before I go there, I'd better use these here. And I'll tell you what I created with these ones. I wish I could show you. I cannot find it. It might have even gone in the bin. I don't know. I tried to create a scene with these three witches. I don't think I had the cauldron at that point. I know I used the pumpkin. I've got the playful pumpkin. I'm sure I used the broomstick. And I tried to create a scene and combine these all, and I wasn't very successful. I didn't like it. I didn't like the composition of the whole thing, and that's why I never showed you that. I think I even recorded a video, but I deleted it. So I thought I want to come up with a design that's so much easier to make, that's not as intimidating, because you don't have to combine all these things in one card, or in one image, I should say. So I want to show you one design just with these here, and I've also dug out the Magic Surrounds Us sentiment and the fairy orbs just for some texture. And then I thought I'd use these here on a different card, and yeah, I will keep that a little bit as a secret what I want to make with these. But as I said, my idea is to use many of these. For this card here, whilst I was looking for my image to show you, I came across some papers that I must have made myself. I almost thought I had bought them, but I can see in the back that I made these. I think these are just Element inks on a gel plate with some water. I think that's all this is. So for the first card, I won't show you this technique, but basically you apply the Elements inks onto with a brayer onto your gel plate, you spritz a bit of water, and then you take a print. I'm sure that this is what this is. You can see you've got some different colors here. That might be the truffle, maybe the dark denim. Not sure about this one here, but I don't recall making them, but they are definitely not shopboard. But obviously they've got the Lavinia stamps have got you know, papers with designs on them already. So just to keep this video short, I'm going to use one of these, and then I think for those I will create a background because I need a bit of a bigger paper. For the first card, this will most likely be a 6x4 card. I've just taken this panel, this is just under 6 inches, and I've cut it down to under 4 inches to have a sort of even space on the 6x4 card, although I could spread it out to a 5x7 card. So I have marked 3 equal panels here. I sort of eyeballed it a little bit, I measured a little bit, then eyeballed it. And my idea is I could use a fancy die for that, but I actually have got lots of these scissors in my stash. I bought one last year, or maybe even this year, I can't remember, but I was also gifted some of these. So I thought I'd just pick one of them that appeals to me. This is rather nice here, and I'm going to cut these panels. So I'm just thinking, yeah, just making sure that this is not just, how can I explain that you sort of got an inverted and, you know, the same pattern going inwards and outwards. If you've just got, I'll just show you this one in comparison. If I would use this one here, then the edge of the next panel would look different than the edge of the first panel. So I want one that cuts the sort of same way, and I'm just cutting along this edge here, and then I need to make sure that I line it again here without tearing the paper. So placing it where I did before. There we go. I'm happy with that. So I'm doing that here as well, and I'm also cutting around the panels. So I hope I end up with even-sized panels afterwards. So that was a little learning curve because the last bit of my scissors was quite straight, so I had to learn to not cut it all the way through. And where I had some very pointy bits on the corners, I just chopped those down a little bit, but I really like the look of that. But if you don't have that, you can also tear the paper. Just use your metal ruler and sort of hold it down and then tear a bit off. The only problem is that the bit you tear off usually gets destroyed, so you need a bigger piece to work with, so that basically you can tear some strips away in between. But I think it's a nice idea. So I want to create a little bit more of a background, but not too much because these papers already are quite busy. So I'm just coming in with my Lavinia elements again. I'm not stamping with VersaFine. VersaFine gives you a very crisp look, but I want my witches to be the main focus. So I'm just coming in with these and with my sentiment stamp. I just use this as texture. I don't want this to be, I don't want anyone to read this really. So I'm just inking this up. This is the pine. I think that's the pine there, so I'm not quite sure how much that blends in, but I will find out now. I'll have a look. Yeah, that almost disappears. That's where I've got the olive here, so I will go in again with the olive. Yeah, I like that. You see, it's sort of almost darker on one side than on the other side. And still quite crisp, to be honest. A bit crisper than I expected it to be with the Elements ink. It's a great ink. I've tried the Tim Holtz. I've got a few of the oxides, but this is so much better. So tell you what, I'll do the other side here, just at the bottom. And I can do the rest of the ink up here. Yeah, I think that's all I want to do. I try not to overthink it. So, but the other thing I want to do is I want to stamp some of the orbs again, just for texture, just for a little bit to happen in the background. So I'm even contemplating whether I just pop him all on one block. So, and again, I will just use the same colour. It's up to you if you want the background to be more colourful. Yeah, come in with a different colour. I very briefly contemplating coming in with a pink. I think that would have been a nice contrast to the green. But basically I want to off stamp it a little bit here as well. And yeah, linking this up again. I might come in with some second generation. It might even be a little bit too dark now. Well, if there is something like too dark. So the other thing you could do if you wanted to come in with a stencil, there's so many ways of giving texture to a background. Yeah, that disappears too much. It has to be first generation. Again, the orbs are a stamp that I thought, yeah, I really need those, and I hardly ever use them, but they are really great for something like this. And I've said this before, have a play. With me making these videos and, you know, thinking I need to make something for my followers, I sometimes shy away from playing because I think, oh, it might not be good enough for a video. But with this video, I thought, no, keep it simple. Can't go wrong then. If there is anything like wrong, and then it should be okay. So I'm leaving that to dry just for a second whilst I'm cleaning these up. And then I just come in and stamp the lovely witches here. I'm lining up my stamps in my stamping platform. There are two reasons why I decided to do them all at the same time. One thing is I can check that the height of all of these is the same, or at least similar. If you work on a bigger card, you could actually arrange the panels on a different height. You can cut the panels a little bit shorter and then sort of move them up. I've got a card on my channel where I've done that. I think I stamped some lavender or so. So that's a nice look as well. But I decided for this one, I want to have them all on one level. Need to check with this one here. This looks still very unused. I'm sure I used all three of them at one point. Oh, by the way, the middle panel was a bit slimmer, so that's why it is in the middle, so it won't interfere with the look of the whole thing. Also, when you place the panels down, make sure your sentiments aren't upside down. So I've chosen this one here at the front because I think it will be leading with that little crook. Then I've chosen this one here in the middle, that's the one with the light, and then the one with the broomstick, she's brushing up after the others. In German we call it the Besenwagen. Yeah, I won't explain what it is all about. So that's the advantage of this. And also with a stamping platform, if these aren't fully stamped, if I miss something out, then it's easy for me to go back in because I want these really to be properly black. So I'm turning this sideways now. Make sure it's flat, and then I'm going to ink this up. I'm sorry about the glare there. Let me turn my light away a little bit. I've got a little IKEA light here, which always helps when it's dark. So make sure you've got plenty of ink on the stamps because these are silhouette stamps, so you need plenty of ink. But I just love the details of these. The hair and the broom there is just so delicate. I'm looking forward to buying the new stamps. I'm sure I will use them, but I thought I definitely have to use these first. So I'll tell you what, I'll concentrate on each one. I think that'll be the best thing. I find the panels do stick to the stamps, so hopefully when I lift them up, I won't pull them up and pull them away. So yeah, I'm happy with that. I'm happy with the stamping. Let me zoom in a little bit for you. So you've got the fine hair there, and yeah, that's all fine. If you have areas like maybe a wee bit here, what I tend to do is I take a fine brush and I just, let me zoom in and maybe even bring in the light for that. So I'll just lift this up so you can see. So I've got a tiny bit of here where the green peeps through. And what I do is I just take my fine brush. I'm just going into my ink pad, trying not to drop this now. Just picking up the ink, and then I'm just filling this in. And because it is the same ink, this will blend in really nicely. Let me just lift that up so you can see. I hope the camera picks it up. My eyes don't at the moment. So I'm cleaning this up, and then I'll show you my ideas for the background. I have decided, as suggested before, to use these panels on a 5x7 card, and I've just grabbed a piece of cardstock from my stash and I've cut this down to 4 3/4 by 6 3/4. I do believe that this is some sort of watercolor paper. It's not very thick, but it's got a bit of texture, I just want to use up my scraps. But when I place this down, this looks really, really dull. So I have to do something to the background. I don't want to compete with these panels. I don't really want to go tone on tone, so I actually come in with my original idea, and that is to introduce some purple and some pink. So I've got the pink elephant here. I don't know, I can't remember. I must have bought it at the Spring Extravaganza. I don't think I've used it before. I'm not sure. I've forgotten I have it. Do these things happen to you, that you buy something and you don't use it and then forget you have it? I know I've used the Flying Fig before. I really love that. That's a lovely, lovely purple. So I'm going to do some very basic ink blending on the background. I want to have some pink sort of in the middle, peeping through in between the panels, and then the Flying Fig on the outside. So I'm not quite sure how this paper reacts to the Elements inks. But I sometimes think for these, simple projects, we can use a CraftStash. Very juicy. Oh my god, this is amazing. So I'll have to start with a very light application. I will actually start where I will place a panel, because can you see how much this is actually? Ooh, geez. It's amazing. The colour is amazing, but obviously you can see all my brush marks. So I will actually increase the application, try to blend this in, and then I will show you a trick afterwards how you can disguise it if you're not happy with your ink blending. So I will just go for it and I'll show you how this looks. It's not perfect at all, but the colour is, oh my god, it's amazing. So just use a little bit up there. Might just as well put this down. So, and then I'm just going around with a Flying Fig and basically create a frame. So again, this is very juicy. So the trick for a frame is to actually come in on the corners. I learned that from Joe Rice. So come in on the corners and then work your way along the edges. So, and also when you work, like I'm working on a laminated sheet here, I can pick this ink up afterwards as well. And I always start with a lighter application and then increase the pressure when I've used up most of the ink. So I'm going in there, then swirling this around, and probably for the third time I'm only picking it up on the lid. So yeah, definitely not the best paper, but it'll be fine for the background. So I can pick this up here now. The only thing I don't want is too much white peeping through, so I could come in with a third colour, like the dark denim would probably make the purple even more intense. But yeah, I'll stick with that now. So the little trick is disguising ink blending that looks, you might think, rubbish. It does a little bit. Is coming in with a water bottle and do some spritzing, because I believe this is water paper anyway. I might just as well do that. So very fine mist. So it probably will show more on the purple than it does on the pink. But can you see? It starts reacting. You could, if you wanted to, go in with a kitchen towel. I like to leave this as it is. It needs to dry properly because it's actually not very thick paper. And yeah, this already disguises the rather blotchy ink blending. Not so much in the middle. I could come in with a little bit more water, but I think I'll just stick with this at the moment as it's just the background anyway. Whilst that panel is drying, I thought I'd start with a second card because I don't want to use my heat tool. I think it warps the card too much. So this is a very similar idea as I want to create smaller panels, but not all the same size, and I want to colour those and yeah, basically then arrange them on the card. But my thought was just this here. Whenever I use the VersaFine, although it dries permanent and it's a good ink, if I come in too early and I do some ink blending over that, it usually smears. So I'm going to cheat a little bit. I'm going to stamp in a really, really light colour, and I'm going to use a soft signet just to know where I have to ink, and then I can come in with the VersaFine afterwards to do the proper stamping. So and this also gives a nice sort of background colour, because I want to come in with the Distress Oxide Vintage Photo, because I think that's a great colour. So when I'm stamping, this is, by the way, it's again from my stash, just some leftover paper, and this is really just some thick paper, which will be easier to tear, but you can use any paper you want. You don't have to do this as a first generation, you could do this as a second generation. Can you see it's really sort of faint, but it will give me an idea where to stamp. So I'm going to do this with all the other ones as well, leaving enough space in between so that I can tear the paper. I've got different shapes. I mean, these will be sort of squarish, this a bit rectangular, but I've also got the broomstick, maybe even the tall one, so that will be a really long shape. I've done my stamping, and now I want to do some very basic ink blending. I've got some thinner stencil brushes, or ink blending brushes, and I just want to do the pumpkin and orange, and I've got the Merlot here and the truffle definitely for the broomstick. I think I might do a mix on the books, so I just want to put a little bit of ink down. I want to keep it sort of tone and tone, so I chose some colours that, just let this slip onto the ink pad, so some colours that I think go together. So I'm really very lightly applying the ink. I don't mind going over the edge a little bit, because that will blend in afterwards. I want to go in a little bit heavier on one side to give it a little bit of shade, but you can see how quickly that actually goes. Oops, just want to lift that up so you can see what I'm doing. So even if I've got a little bit of a patch there, I'm fine with that. So again, I'm doing the rest off camera, and then I show you. I still haven't decided in which order I want to do it, whether I want to tear the panels first and then do the background, or whether I do the background first and then do the tearing. I'll have a little think. So I've done my basic colouring. I had to do the hat again because I went straight in with my ink blending brush, and I basically left these blotches there, so I wasn't happy with that, so I just did it again. And that's the advantage of not doing a whole scene on one card, because if you go wrong, it doesn't matter really. I also put in here the cauldron fire or steam. I didn't stamp that before, but I wanted to put in some colour. So all I'm doing now is, and I decided to do the tearing afterwards, is I'm coming in with my Distress Oxide Vintage Photo, and I'm going to do some basic ink blending in the background. I think this one's not too juicy. I can test it here. So I'm basically ink blending around these images. I don't mind overlapping a little bit. I've also gone outside the lines here. I think that will all blend in, but I'm basically doing that and apply a generous amount of the ink all over. Again, I'm doing this off camera. As before, this looks like a hot mess now. It doesn't look very professional at all, but I think once I've stamped in black on this, this will be fine. In hindsight, maybe I should have done this in the stamping platform as well, because then I could have just gone back in. But because this signet is a very light colour, I think I could go in again just stamping over that. If you're not sure, or if you want a different look, you could also spritz this again. This would mute the whole thing. I'm contemplating whether I want to do that actually. The only thing is then I need to wait again for this to dry, and also this is not a very heavyweight cardstock, but I'm tempted. Let me have a little think. Yes, I'm going for it. I will do it on this one first, and if I'm not happy with it, then I just need to do the hat again or just dismiss the hat. So I'm going to spritz this because theoretically it diffuses all the colour now because it's not the VersaFine. And I'm hoping that I get a bit of a like a watercolour effect. So I'm hoping it's moving the signet, but I will come in with my kitchen towel. So can you see it takes quite a bit of colour off, but I need to leave this to dry. So I'm doing it with the other pieces as well. I might use the heat tool on this actually because I think I'm getting too impatient, but I'm then coming back on the back to the first card and show you how I finish that. This panel has dried really nicely. What I like to do, if this is a little bit warped, is just to bend it in the opposite direction, and that usually helps to counteract that, and once it's glued down it will be fine. So I've cut mine so I've got a little bit of a border. At the moment I'm not quite sure whether I like the white border because I've got no white in these images, so I think I will actually come in with my ink blending brush and just do some inking in green just around the frame there. So I will pop that in a moment. I will pop that on my colouring piece, my laminated sheet, and do that, and then I will stick these down. I will not add a sentiment. I'm not even sure what I'm using this for. I don't do Halloween cards. I don't see the point of having Halloween cards, but I might just use that as a decoration, or if I've got a friend who's got a birthday coming up soon, then I might use that as a sort of witchy Halloweeny birthday card. So I will do this off camera, and then hopefully the other panels are dry enough for me to continue with them. So that's my first card nearly finished. By the way, to align those properly, I start putting the outer ones on first, and then I could evenly space the middle one. I think that's the easiest way to do it. But I found this needed one more thing: stickers. I've got the lime green stickers here. I think the ladies could do with a little bit of glitter on their body, so I'm just testing here on the side, making sure it's flowing nicely. I think it could do with a poke with a needle here, although usually they're quite nice. I think it's because I've used it quite a bit. So I'm just maybe a little bit here on the dress, on the bum. Oops, coming out. There it is. Trying to do a little bit of a line, but I'm not very successful there at the moment. But doesn't matter. So this is too even for me, so I'm just going in again here. So I want a little bit on the hat then as well. This will dry really thinly, so I can leave it as it is without coming in with a brush or anything. Can you see? I must rescue this a little bit though. Yeah. So we'll probably show you a close-up when I finish that. If you wanted to, you could do something fancy with a light here, but I just really want these as silhouettes. I don't want to do anything that will look like a scene, so I finished this card here. And now I'm coming back to the other panels. My stamping over these image was more or less successful. Worked great with a hat, The pumpkin is fine, the broomstick is fine. On the cauldron, I was way out, and also on the books, it looks like a shadow or ghost books. I will stick with this now. I don't want to overthink it. I don't want to call it a mistake. I mean, on the pumpkin, I've got some double stamping here. So if you want to stamp precisely over it, do it in a stamping platform, and then you can basically stamp in the same way. Same place, sorry. So I want to tear these panels now. So as I said before, you can either use a ruler, and then let me just demonstrate it on this piece here. Then you get a fairly even edge, or you can just go ahead and tear it like that. Because I want some even pieces, I will go with the ruler technique. So as I said before, I'm leaving a little bit of space on either side, and I'm lining my ruler up on my grid mat as well. Just zoom out a little bit so I'm not going off camera, so that I'm fairly straight. And the piece you want to get rid of, you have to leave outside the ruler, so that the piece you want to protect is underneath the ruler. So I will do this with all pieces now. Where I've got pieces here together, I will actually have to cut this down a little bit so that I don't accidentally tear the piece that I still want to keep. If you've got a very thin strip that you need to tear off and you're struggling to lift it up with your finger and grab it, just get your tweezers and just use them to lift this up, so then you can tear it. And if it tears off, just go in again with the tweezers. So some of these could be a little bit fiddly. I have torn all my pieces, and I had a little play on a 5x7 card and also on a DL card how I would like to arrange them, because before I do the last step and I stick them down, I want to make sure that I'm happy with the size of these, because I could always, you know, tear these to a slightly smaller size. So I had a little look here and see how these would fit. You don't have to you know, fit them all side by side. You can have them overlap a little bit, but I found this was a bit of too much of a squeeze. I prefer actually this size. It gives me a little bit of space between the images. So I haven't planned this really ahead. You could do that and see how you want to arrange these. So I thought maybe that one there. I'll have a little think, another play. I had it before. The idea is actually, once you've decided it, take a photo of it so you don't forget how to do that. But I'm happy with the size of these. I might actually dismiss the cauldron there and just go with this. I think that looks really nice. So even though I've stamped, it doesn't matter. So what I want to do though with these is stamp the spell again on the background, and I will also do some ink blending, basic ink blending around here in a darker colour. Probably the truffle, maybe the graphite. I'll have a little think off camera. And then just to keep this video short now, well, it's not short, but as short as it can be, I will stick these down off camera and then just show you the finished card. I'm pleased to say that the cauldron has made the cut, so I squeezed it at the top there. So as I said before, I stamped the sentiment again, just in random places for some texture. And going round with the graphite made such a difference to these pieces. I haven't stuck them down completely because I like the look that they stand up on the edges a little bit. And I've also popped the middle piece, because it was thin cardstock, on another piece of cardstock, not all the way to the edge, and then put it on some foam pads for a bit of dimension. The only thing I want to do is to put a little bit of white in the eyes here of the jack-o'-lantern. I think that makes a difference. I could add something to the books and to the cauldron, but I think I just do it on the middle piece here. So yeah, two sort of Halloween inspired or witchy inspired cards that do not create a scene. And I think this is so much less intimidating than trying to incorporate all these images. There are lots of videos on the Lavinia Stamps website and a few of the design team, Joe Rise, Mona, they have created wonderful scenes with these, but I was always struggling. So maybe this gave you an idea what you can do with your sort of more Halloweeny and witchy stamps. Yeah, I hope you like these ideas, and if you do, please don't forget to like this video, maybe comment, let me know which one's your favourite of the two, and I'd be happy if you subscribed, and I'll see you again soon with another video.